Have you ever found yourself sitting across from someone you love, feeling this deep ache in your chest, but not saying a single word about it? It could be a small frustration, a recurring disappointment, or a silent hurt that's just grown heavier over time. And still, you choose to stay quiet. You smile, you nod, maybe you change the subject, just hoping that feeling will pass or that they might somehow, magically, understand without you having to say anything at all. This is a quiet struggle that so many of us go through. It doesn't make for a dramatic story, but it carries a profound emotional weight. We often wonder, why do we let ourselves endure this discomfort? Why do we push our own feelings down, even when they are completely valid? It's not because we don't care or because we are indifferent. In fact, it's often the exact opposite. We deeply desire connection, closeness, and love, but there's also fear. The fear of conflict, the fear of rejection, the fear of rocking the boat, or maybe the fear of showing a vulnerability we're not quite ready to face. In many ways, this silence becomes a protective shield. Our mind tells us, if I don't say anything, nothing will change. But if I speak up, I might lose what I have. And yet, the very act of staying silent can slowly erode intimacy, leaving us feeling misunderstood, distant, and even alone, right in the middle of love. In this video, we're going to explore the psychological reasons behind this common pattern. We'll uncover how our early experiences, our attachment styles, and our subconscious emotional conditioning shape the way we respond in relationships. We'll see how these invisible patterns show up in our daily lives and learn why. Despite our best intentions, silence often feels so much safer than speaking our truth. Most importantly, we'll discuss practical insights to help break this cycle so we can connect more openly and authentically with the people we care about most. By the end, you'll gain a deeper understanding of yourself and your relationships, and hopefully, a gentle encouragement to begin speaking your truth not with anger, but with clarity and compassion. So, to understand why we stay silent when we're hurt, we first need to look at the underlying psychology that shapes our behavior in relationships. A huge part of our emotional response is rooted in our attachment style, which develops very early in life based on our experiences with our caregivers. These patterns influence how safe we feel expressing our emotions and relying on others. For example, people with an anxious attachment style often crave closeness, but live with a deep fear of abandonment. They might hold back their hurt, not because they don't want to communicate, but because they worry that expressing their pain could actually push the other person away. On the other hand, those with an avoidant attachment style tend to really value independence and self-sufficiency. They might suppress their feelings, convincing themselves that sharing emotions is a sign of weakness or just isn't necessary. Both of these patterns can lead to silence, even though the motivations behind them are different. Emotional conditioning also plays a massive role. Many of us grew up in environments where expressing feelings was discouraged, ignored, or even met with criticism. Over time, we internalize the idea that our emotions are inconvenient or unsafe to share. We learn to manage our own feelings by minimizing our needs and fears, often without even realizing we're doing it. This internalized message doesn't just disappear when we become adults. It quietly influences how we navigate our romantic relationships. Another factor is the role of our automatic thought patterns. When we feel hurt, our mind often runs through a whole list of potential negative outcomes. If I speak up, they might get angry. They might think I'm overreacting. Maybe it's just better if I let it go. These mental scripts get reinforced over time, making silence feel like the most rational or safest choice. And finally, our social and cultural environment can make this tendency even stronger. Many cultures subtly teach us emotional restraint, especially when it comes to being vulnerable in love. While expressing feelings is encouraged in some contexts, in others it can be seen as oversharing or a sign of weakness. Even within a relationship, the fear of being judged, misunderstood, or disappointing someone we care about can create a powerful internal barrier to open communication. The key idea here is that staying silent is rarely about a lack of caring. It's often a deeply ingrained survival mechanism, a way to protect both ourselves and the relationship from what we perceive as potential harm. By understanding these psychological foundations, we can start to see that this pattern is personal, failing it as a learner response shaped by our experiences, our fears, and the subtle rules of human connection. So how does all this psychology actually play out in real relationships? Well, silence can show up in very subtle ways, almost imperceptibly, in our daily interactions. Imagine you notice a repeated behavior in your partner that hurts or frustrates you. Maybe they dismiss your ideas, forget small promises, or just fail to notice when you're feeling down. You feel that pang of disappointment, but instead of addressing it, you smile and carry on. That small decision not to speak up is influenced by all the factors we just discussed: fear, attachment style, and past conditioning. Over time, these small silences start to accumulate. You might catch yourself thinking, "It's not even worth mentioning. They'll never change." Or, "I don't want to start an argument over something so minor." Each time we do this, we reinforce the pattern of internalizing our emotions rather than expressing them. In some cases, it can even create a kind of emotional distance, where one partner is silently hurting while the other remains completely unaware. This dynamic is especially common in long-term relationships. Early on, love often feels exciting, full of connection and shared experiences. But as we become more familiar with each other, so do our expectations and disappointments. Differences in how we communicate become more obvious. Some people express their hurt openly, while others withdraw into themselves. This imbalance can create cycles of misunderstanding, where one person feels unacknowledged and the other feels constantly pressured. Another example is the internal dialogue that often goes along with these silent moments. You might replay a conversation in your head, imagining how it would go if you actually spoke up. Sometimes, this mental rehearsal just increases your anxiety instead of giving you clarity. Thoughts like, "If I tell them, it might ruin the whole mood," or "maybe I'm just overreacting," can stop authentic communication in its tracks. The emotional weight gets heavier, but the voice remains silent. In even more subtle ways, silence can manifest as indirect signals rather than a direct conversation. Maybe you become quieter, less responsive, or more emotionally reserved. You might find yourself making excuses or avoiding topics that could lead to conflict. Your partner might notice a change in your mood or energy, but not fully understand why. These patterns create a complex dance in a relationship, one of connection and distance, of closeness and quiet withdrawal. And it's so important to remember, these behaviors are not about blame. Most people who stay silent do so out of love, fear, or the hope that they're preserving harmony. The challenge is that this well-intentioned silence can sometimes be the very thing that prevents true understanding, intimacy, and growth in a relationship. Recognizing these patterns is the first step toward breaking them and opening the door to more conscious, intentional communication. Remaining silent while you're experiencing emotional pain often creates a profound inner conflict. On one hand, there's this deep desire to express your feelings and be understood. But on the other hand, there's the fear of the consequences of rejection, or of upsetting someone you truly care about. This tension can leave you feeling exhausted, frustrated, and even completely isolated within your own relationship. Many people describe this as a sense of emotional invisibility. Even when physically together, you feel as if a part of you is hidden or unacknowledged. Your thoughts start to swirl. Do they even notice how much this hurts me? Or maybe I'm just being too sensitive. This self-doubt gets amplified by the habit of minimizing your own feelings, a coping strategy that often starts in childhood but follows us right into our adult relationships. This struggle can also create cycles of rumination. You might find yourself replaying events in your mind over and over again, analyzing your partner's words and actions, trying to make sense of your own reactions. This mental and emotional effort can be incredibly draining, but without actually verbalizing it, the issue often remains unresolved. On top of that, silence can paradoxically reinforce the very fear that causes it in the first place. By not speaking, your mind interprets the situation as unsafe, which confirms the subconscious belief that expressing your feelings will lead to loss or conflict. This creates a feedback loop. Fear leads to silence. Silence reinforces fear. And over time, the emotional distance between you and your partner can grow. It is so important to remember that this struggle does not mean there is a lack of love or care. It simply reflects the complexity of human emotion, the weight of vulnerability, and the intricate ways our early experiences shape our adult behavior. Many people repeat these patterns not because they're indifferent, but because feeling emotionally safe is a deeply ingrained human need. Acknowledging this inner conflict is a crucial step forward. When you recognize that staying silent is a protective mechanism, and that it's rooted in understandable psychological patterns, it allows you to have some self-compassion. When we approach ourselves with empathy, we can begin to see that these struggles are not personal failings. They are signals pointing us toward the areas where growth, awareness, and more conscious communication are needed. Thank you so much for watching. If this resonated with you, please consider liking this video and subscribing for more content on building healthier, more connected relationships. We'll see you in the next one.